We're going to do a quick tour of various cards in Rally Around the Flag, and I thought I'd start with the Army cards here. We have Army of Northern Virginia's command card, and we also have the Army of the Potomac's command card. If you notice on these, they both will say the word Army. When this card comes up, they affect every unit that's on the board all at once. So the Plan 4 action or Plan 3 action allows any 4 or 3 units on the board to take an action when that card is played. Another possibility, though, is also drawing up to the hand limit. The hand limit for the Army of Northern Virginia is 11, and the hand limit for the Army of the Potomac is 10. In addition to the Army card, each of the armies have the various corps cards. Now, in the case of the Confederates, they have only 3 corps on the table or on the board, so I'm laying their cards out here so you can take a quick look at them. Again, these also allow you to plan or march. March is kind of a rapid movement of troops from the back toward the front. So I want to talk about the event cards as part of what we're looking at today. These cards here that don't have any top or bottom borders are event cards. When they come up in the deck, they trigger certain actions. I'm going to start with the first one that both sides have, which is Reserves Arrive. When you first set up Rally and you're playing the game starting from July 1st, there was kind of a lack of reserves within the battle theater. So whenever a Reserve Arrive card comes up, or one of the core cards comes up, like you saw in the prior segment, then you get to add one of the Battle Reserve cards into the deck for play. When the Heroic Charge event card is played, it allows you to attack and play 2 additional combat cards on your side. This gives you a significant advantage during combat. It also acts as a pass, and the reason that's important, when I go through combat you'll be able to see, is that's how you basically stop the play of cards in the combat. The last 2 events in the series of events for both sides are a little bit different here. The Confederates have an action called Battle Plan. What Battle Plan allows them to do is activate any general in addition to the one that's currently active, even without having a core card. So this effectively acts like an additional commander and allows for multiple commanders to be active in the same impulse. On the Union side, we have Command Changes. This card is really only played during the first day of action. During the first day of action at Gettysburg, the command on the Union side changed 7 times. When this card comes up, the player must designate a new Army commander from the corps commanders that are on the board before meat arrives, and then the hand capacity is then set to that general's command level. So all of these cards that you're seeing here are battle cards. You can tell them because they have different formations that are assigned to them. When a battle occurs, you play one of these cards to form your troops into some form of general formation that's being used in the combat. They each create benefits and vulnerabilities. An example here is, as you see at the top of this line card, we have Tactic versus Reserve. Tactic, when you play this card, because it has the Tactic keyword in it, it immediately stops combat at the point where you play this card, if the person is in or bringing up reserves. So this is a way that you can preempt the addition of enemy troops into the force that he's bringing, because you can prevent his reserves from arriving by just ending the turn. Okay. Also, you'll find on these cards 2 different numbers at the top. If it's lacking a number, that value is 0. Over on this side, you'll find a blue number which increases the defensive strength. Basically, it counts as soldiers that are in the fight. And the red number, which will be on the other side, is for the offensive strength. The critical thing, though, about playing Rally Around the Flag is if you're not in some good ordered formation, line, skirmish, assault, frontier, reserve, then you're automatically susceptible to every single thing that can happen not only do you not get the benefit of the strength adjustment that comes up, but you also have every bad thing that can happen to you does happen to you because you don't have your troops in good order. This makes the gameplay rather intriguing because as you're choosing how many cards to play into a battle, you've always got to hold something back in case the opponent launches an attack on his turn in a different place. And if you can't get your troops into a defensive formation, it makes you more vulnerable to destruction. Second thing I want to show you as we go through the cards here is Skirmish. Again, this is a +2 versus line. It works against a line attack. These change based on the kind of card or the unit that forms it. Assault gets +3 versus line and a +2 here on the attack. Frontier is an odd one that people ask me about. Frontier represents Indian rushes, basically sharpshooter actions, Zouave drill. All that kind of gets lumped together in Frontier, mostly because the key units that have them are like Berdan sharpshooters or the Texans, who tended to fight in kind of a loose order, more like a modern military than a Napoleonic military. Again, you can see both benefits here on each side, and here's a tactic versus assault, which brings an assault to a close. And then reserve at the bottom, you can see same kind of thing. Again, these numbers will change, and the benefit that exists in between them will change at the same time. So I'm going to take a moment here and show you how to set up day one of the campaign for the divisional level play game. The first thing you do is separate out all of your tactics cards, with the exception of the reserves, which you pull out separately and set to the side. Again, these cards here only come in when an officer comes into the field, a command officer comes into the field, or when you get reserves arrive. Either one will add one of the reserve cards into your deck, and it'll grow the number of cards you have to play with. Works for both sides the same way. You also add in the events into the deck. So the events and the initial battle cards all go into your deck. The next thing you add is any leaders that are by scenario supposed to be part of the battle already. In this case, we know that 3rd Corps, which is right here, is currently in play, so we add the 3rd Corps card in. And none of the other Corps commanders are going to enter in the morning. Lee will enter at noon, so we literally, for the first day, we put him on the bottom of the deck after we shuffle him. He'll be the last card drawn, which means he'll enter exactly at noon when the turn changes, because the turn ends when we draw through the deck of cards. So we've shuffled the Confederate deck, and we're in the process of putting Lee on the bottom of the deck, and this would become the Confederate draw deck. I'm going to set up the Union draw deck next. Again, we take all of the battle cards and we put them into the deck, and we also include the events that are coming in. Remembering, of course, that the command changes only happens in the first day. If you're playing in a scenario from 2nd or 3rd day, it'll tell you to take this card out of the group because command won't change once Meade reaches the field. In addition to that, because we have 2 commanders getting ready to come in as reinforcements, we're going to add their card into the deck. And we don't know exactly when they're going to come in, but we do know they will come in. So here's 1st Corps, and there is 11th Corps. And we'll shuffle those into the deck and set that aside as a draw pile for the Union. And next we select Buford's Cavalry Division, which is currently skirmishing here on the Sunken Railroad, and we deploy Heath's division coming up the road with 1st Corps or 3rd Corps back behind it in the Cashtown Pass area. And finally, we go ahead and deploy Reynolds as 1st Corps commander. He'll act as the Army commander initially, and will continue until we see a change of command card come up.